I don't know. This is great. This will be all part of the blurbs.
Part of the blurbs.
Is that what it's called? Blurbs? Bloopers. Bloopers, not blurbs.
Blurbs. It's going to be part of the blurbs.
Anyways. Hey friends, Deb's here. And my hubs, Michael. This is going to be a great Q&A. So I before coming here to China, I told people in the States that, oh, like, I'll have a YouTube channel, or we'll have some sort of like newsletter, or, whatever, and we'll keep everyone up to date. Well, I haven't done a superb job with the YouTube channel, which I am hoping to post more YouTube videos, even if they're from like October. So just because I want to get them out there and have them, yeah, they're super old, but whatever. And then Michael's potentially going to do like some sort of blog or newsletter, right?
Yeah, hopefully starting this year, but it's not going to be entirely focused on travels and things like that. It's more so just a combination of thoughts about what essentially success looks like, but in the journey of our life, and so there'll be aspects of travel in there and what we're doing, but then also just thoughts, books that I'm reading, things like that.
Yeah. So I had asked on my personal Facebook page, I want to do a Q&A. Do people have any like questions or like things that they're curious about? I have all the questions here. These are in no particular order. I'm just going to do them from as they got. So first question is from Megan. It says, what are you doing here? Are you there short term or long term? So we're in China, we're in Shanghai. We are teachers. We aren't English teachers though. Like I have an art education degree and a teaching license, so I'm an actual art teacher. Michael is a PE teacher at the school. So we are teachers, but we're actually teaching in our field. So even though I do have an ESL certification. And do you want to answer short term, long term? Question mark?
That's one of those things where, it kind of depends. So we don't necessarily see ourselves staying in China long term, even though we have a really great community here. So my cousin is actually the principal of the school, the elementary principal of the school here, and they were the ones that kind of told us about the school, and just a lot of really incredible people that have helped the transition really well, and also are super willing to watch Theo, and just a lot of
really
great,
awesome.
Yeah, a lot of great community events, really, really great community. But China in of itself, we don't necessarily see ourselves staying here long term. So as of now, our plan is finish out this year, potentially stay another year, and then potentially look at some other places, most likely Korea, but we'll kind of see how that goes. There's a lot of up in the air around that.
Yeah. So that kind of goes into the question of like why China, which my friend Joanna asked. So last fall, we just kind of decided like, hey, we want to do something different. I was staying home with our son at the time, so I wanted to go back to teaching, but I wanted to do it overseas. And so we wanted to go to Korea originally, South Korea. And while we were doing that search, Michael's cousin reached out to us because he's like, hey, I heard that you wanted to go overseas. Our school actually needs an art teacher and PE teacher. You guys would be perfect. So that's kind of why we did China, because we figured like as our first time as grown-ups, we both grew up overseas in different countries and cultures, but as grown-ups and having a kid going overseas, like it would be actually really nice to have a family member there, even though I had only like met him once before, but and because he had told us like the community here is really great. They've been living here, this is their 4th year, so it's like they must like it. So that's why we figured we would come and join them at this school in this city, because it would just be an easier transition instead of going somewhere completely brand new. All of that, like we were really close to accepting a job in Bangkok, Thailand, to an international school, but like we would have had to find our own housing. We would have we wouldn't have known anyone there. Just the language barrier, everything like setup wise. I mean, maybe it would have been great, but like even just the first day or two here, we were like, oh my gosh, we're so thankful that we are here instead of Thailand, because just because the community here is so great and they did such an amazing job with onboarding, like for the new staff and taking care of us and showing us around, and the housing's already taken care of, you know, like just so many positive things that we're very grateful that we were here instead. It just turned out to be a really good fit and just happened to work out really well, right? Our friend Emily asked, how have you been and what are some cultural surprises, idiosyncrasies you've discovered?
We've been doing really, really well. It's been great. There's so many aspects to, you know, teaching overseas that are just really change life. You know, because a lot of schools overseas will pay for you to fly. You know, they'll cover the cost of flying over there, and then they cover the cost back to the States every year. So you already have that aspect of like, you're getting paid in some degree to travel. You know, your housing for the most part, not everywhere, a lot of times more so in the Asia area. So your housing's like covered, you know, and
you still pay for utilities.
Pay for utilities, but it's less than $100 a month for everything, for gas, electric, water.
All of that.
All of that is less than $100 a month. So it's like the cost of living is so much lower. We can go out to a night market here and get a meal that would make you like
for both of us together.
For both of us for like $4. Like you can get 2 things of noodles, 2 like little sandwich things, and then like a bubble tea for $5.
Yeah.
You know, and then there's like, you know, obviously variations of that. But even if you want to go to more Western style restaurants, it's still cheaper because you don't have the tax on there as well. So
or tip. You don't tip here.
You don't tip. You don't have the tax. Public transportation. So you don't have a car. You don't have car insurance. Public transportation super cheap.
Yeah.
Like you could pay $1 to go on an hour-and-a-half subway ride, basically. So really, really cheap. And so that just takes away a lot of those expenses that essentially add up. Because we have Theo, have a nanny who's with him, you know, every day.
All day.
While
Monday through Friday.
While we are at school.
Yeah.
But it's another thing too, like even she gets paid on the high end of what nannies get paid, but it's still nothing compared to America.
Yeah.
And, you know, she cooks for us, she, you know, does the laundry, she cleans, which is just amazing. It frees up so much time. Like so much time can sometimes be restricted in the States with just maintaining all of that stuff on the weekend. Yeah, I feel like the biggest thing really is that like you made a change, like we made a change to our lives, but it freed up time as a resource. Like we so often think of money as a resource and we use our time to get money, which is fine. But when you really think about it, you go like, if I treated time as a valuable resource, what can I do to set my family up to have as much time together? You know, so a lot of times we come home early from school because our IE or our nanny has to leave at 3 o'clock. So one of us is back here with Theo from 3 o'clock until he goes to bed at 8. Like that's 5 hours of time that I get to spend with my son every single day that, like, you know, back in the States wasn't having at all. You know, so we really have that time as a resource, and then, you know, money because of the expenses and the just quality of life definitely improved. We have an amazing apartment. It's been really good, so we're doing really, really well.
So my friend Hannah asked, you mentioned doing some sort of blog or email update as a way to keep in touch and update everyone. Are you still planning on doing that? Yes, kind of. I'm trying to, this year, be more intentional with YouTube and spending at least one time a week editing videos and trying to post them and things. So hopefully I'll be doing more video stuff. For me, video is way easier because it's easy for me to just talk all day long, not write. And Michael's really good at writing. And so we're kind of, it's not going to be like the typical like monthly newsletter or weekly newsletter that's just about our family. It's going to be about whatever he wants to talk about. But hopefully there's some sort of family stuff in there. So if I don't do a video, he has something. But Yeah, and on my YouTube, I want it to be like vlog-ish style. She also still said, or she said, how has everyone adjusted so far? Is Theo doing well? I feel like the first few weeks that we were here, it was super hot and really, really humid. And so it was just kind of a whirlwind of things. So when we first came, Michael had just had hernia surgery, literally the beginning of the week. So he had hernia surgery on Tuesday, and we flew to China on Saturday.
Took a 15-hour plane ride.
18-hour total.
18-hour total on Saturday.
Plane ride, yeah.
I was in a ton of pain. I couldn't pick up Theo at all. I couldn't pick up anything.
Any luggage. It was pretty, I mean, we obviously were, you know, aware that I was gonna have to do this. So I kind of felt like a macho, like, superwoman, because I had Theo in a carrier, and I'm like lifting these 50-pound suitcases onto the cart, and the lady that's like pushing Theo's wheelchair, or Michael's wheelchair, is just kind of like standing there watching me. And I can tell, like, yeah, in China.
We had an amazing lady in Detroit.
But it was just really funny, like, I'm super sweaty, I'm carrying Theo, like, I just probably looked ridiculous. Yeah, and I had a super heavy backpack.
On the front, throwing these.
It was crazy.
She was like an Amazon.
Pretty much, but I felt amazing, because I was like, oh, you know, I'm so strong. But, yeah, the first couple weeks I feel like we're a whirlwind, because we're still trying to adjust to the time change, and then Theo's also processing, like, you know, with the time change and just a new environment. And so looking back, I'm like, oh wow, we really did have kind of like a culture shock-ish in that beginning part, but like, I didn't realize it at the time. Like, we were both really stressed with each other, or impatient, I guess we should say, with each other, because it was just a lot of things, because we have a kid and we're trying to adjust, but also take care of him and keep him alive. So
he adjusted really well, though.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
It was really great. And so I feel like now though, like, we're doing so much better, and truly the community here is really great. So we try to do date nights at least once a week. It doesn't happen all the time, but there's like so many people that are willing to watch him, and so we've been able to go on date nights. Like, it's just nice that we had an amazing community in the States, and we've moved to a whole new, brand new country, and we have an amazing community here too. So we're super thankful and grateful that, like, we have good communities in both. So it's not like we're just in this land of people we don't know. Another question, someone was saying, how has Theo been adjusting to all the changes? He's been doing great. I mean, he's just an awesome kid anyways. Like, he's really easygoing. He's very social. So, like, with all the people that have been babysitting him, like, he's just totally fine. I mean, he gets super sad when I leave, but that's just how he always is. Like, even if I leave and Michael's watching him, he'll like cry his eyes out. So, other than that, like, he loves everyone. He loves the IE. He's learning some Chinese from her, because she doesn't speak English, so she only speaks Chinese to him. So he's learning, you know, 2 languages at once. He's speaking more English these days, because he came when he was 18 months, and he'll be 2 at the end of February. So this is kind of the time when he's learning a ton of words. And he loves reading. He loves trains. We have like a train set from IKEA, because there's an IKEA really close by to here that we go to. How else has he been adjusting?
Great.
Yeah. He says hi to everyone. He runs around. He's super active. So we go on tons of walks around here. There's a ginormous park next to our apartment building, which is really rare. So we're, again, really thankful about that. So yeah, he plays with other Chinese kiddos in the playground. Loves kicking balls and stuff, like playing soccer. So
essentially a little boy. He's doing great.
yeah. Someone, our friend Monty, asked if we've been to a Turkish restaurant here, because that's where I grew up. And I didn't grow up in a restaurant. I grew up in Turkey. No, we haven't actually. We haven't been to a Turkish restaurant here. What else? What's been the biggest adjustment since moving? Like, culturally, day-to-day, things like that.
For me, without a doubt, answering that question is the number of people that are around all the time. So yeah. Shanghai has, you know, depends on different, I mean, there's different things, but around 24 to 26 million people.
Yeah.
So it is 3 times the size of New York City. And we're 40, you know, we're 40 to 50 minutes out from the downtown, which is amazing, because I feel like I would die if I was in that all the time. But even here, like there is nowhere that you can go to be alone. Just nowhere. It's crazy. There are people everywhere.
And it's not like those ginormous crowds that you see in videos of China. Like you'll see that in the subway during rush hour, but it's still, there's just lots of people. Even at that ginormous park that's close by or right next door, there's still people there. Like it's not like you can just go and not expect to see a soul. You know, like you'll see people walking around or sitting there or napping. People nap anywhere here. It's kind of crazy.
So as an introvert, that has been the hardest thing. Also, I mean, as a teacher, so I teach first and second grade. When you have, when you're seeing 100 to 125 first and second graders all day long, my emotional, meter is pretty low by the end of the week. So you feel like you have to try to recharge, and try to find, alone time there. And the language barrier is a challenge too. Our community is in English, the school is in English, so that's not a problem at all. It's just you don't really, for me personally, I didn't really think, like we've both been overseas, we both grew up overseas, we've been to different countries, so you're like, yeah, it's not gonna be a big deal. But when you come here, you kind of forget that like they're not the same even like letters, right? So it's just you can't tell whether that's like a barber shop or like a restaurant. Like you literally have no idea what anything is saying. You don't know what any person, anybody is saying. And a lot of times you feel really like stupid, understandably so, but like even if you say like, hey, I don't understand what you're saying in Chinese, they still just keep talking to you and you're like, I don't understand what you're saying. Yeah. So you can feel really like embarrassed or like stupid because you just don't know. People will talk to you and you just don't know what you're saying. Even though you say, I don't know what you're saying or I don't speak Chinese, it doesn't matter. Like they just keep talking and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And I guess like another cultural thing, like trying to adjust to or whatever. Sorry, the camera cut out again. As I was saying, I just feel like I am constantly judged by people here because, what I was saying with staring, they don't feel like it's not a rude thing to stare here, unfortunately. So people just watch you as you're playing with your kid or walking down the street or shopping and all of that. So I mean that comes with being in a foreign country, I feel like anyways, where you feel like people are talking about you, but I feel like people are talking about me. So and how I parent and people will come, like just the other day Michael had the situation, he was outside and there's like a person doing like construction or landscaping work or something.
Literally like, working with like a digger and digger construction kind of crew. And I was walking with Theo and he started telling me that Theo's jacket was not big enough for the cold. He's like, you have, and I couldn't really understand him obviously, but I can understand what he's saying. Yeah. He's like, you have a big jacket on, but Theo's jacket is thin, but it's very, very warm.
It's very, like he sweats in it.
Most of the time it doesn't bother me. It bothers Debbie more so than me. I'm like, whatever. But I'm like, what? Like in America, what, construction worker or landscaper worker, if I'm, walking along with my kid, would go like, oh wow, your kid doesn't have a jacket warm enough.
Let me give you some parental advice.
So that was like, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. Thanks, man. Bye.
Well, and I also think as I've been here longer and I'm realizing like some of these things that our friends here have told us, like, expect this from the culture, or like these kinds of things. I've actually noticed from growing up in Turkey, like there's actually some similarities, like indirect communication, or there's even like a word, both in Chinese and in Turkish actually, that's like when you have like good relations with someone, like where you actually get like an extra pass in a way. I don't know how to explain it in English.
One of our friends here calls it relational capital.
Yeah.
So basically, is there more in your relationship bank than we've withdrawn from it?
Relationships here are super important. So in Turkish, the word is torpil. I forget what it is in Chinese. Something. Anyways, but yeah. So I forget what we were answering. But we're almost done. Another question was, I guess kind of going with what communities and relationships have you been a part of and been building? This is from my friend Hannah, a different Hannah. the community, it's the foreign staff at our school has a community here. The school's been around for like 5 or 6 years, and so they've just every single year have been doing a better and better job just building a family with the teachers, because it is really rare actually for the foreign staff to like all pretty much get along, and we get together once a week and have dinner together and hang out and all of that. So we kind of came into a community already. We didn't have to create one, which is really, really nice. And our national staff at our school is really awesome too. And I've hung out with a couple of them like outside of school. Yeah, it's just we've come into a community. We haven't had to like create one, so that's really nice. Another question from my friend Chris. What is a lesson you two have learned in 2018 that one might learn only through experience? Like for me, one thing is like go for it. Like just, I mean, for us, like we wanted to move overseas and we did it. Like have the courage to do it. But I mean, with that though, obviously seek counsel, seek advice from people, get as much information as you can before you go, before you sign a contract, all of that. Like I was a crazy person looking up what life is like in China. Well, when I was thinking we were going to Korea, like what life is like in Korea, what to expect, or of stuff. Like I looked up so much. But with that, like we wanted to move overseas and we did it. So that's kind of a lesson, sort of. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's a big thing, you know.
Because we also wanted Theo to grow up in a different culture as well, like we did.
Yeah, something else that still just surprises me is how quickly life can change. You know, going from where we didn't have any money, it was really challenging. Last year was really, really challenging. And how quickly that can change, but also, you know, the deliberate effort sometimes you have to make to change that. And to think outside of the box, whether that's thinking outside of the job that you have or thinking outside of the city that you live in. It doesn't have to be moving overseas, but thinking about like what are the things that I really value and how can I actually shape my life so that those things are forefront, at the front of what I'm doing with my life, or that I can, again, have the most time for those things. So if you do really value family and the job isn't supporting that, I'm not saying quit the job, but it's just trying to think like, okay, how can I think outside of the box to make my life more aligned with my values, or, you know, to support more of the life that I want to live is important. And we have an amazing opportunity, and it still blows my mind, you know, how we're, you know, here and have this opportunity to be able to do it. But you know, who would have thought that like teaching is one of those ways that you can really create the life that you want to create? You know, you don't really think about that. So it's like, what are some of the opportunities that I wouldn't think of in my field that could, you know, dramatically change my life, or dramatically shift my environment to support something different?
Yeah. So anyways, this has probably gone super, super long. Well, thanks so much for joining us today on this little chitter chatter. And I'll try to do like these Q&As more often, or not like every single week, obviously, but you know, interspersed, so that this fellow can answer some of these with me, or I'll just do them by myself. Yeah. Right now, Theo's actually taking a nap. That's why he's not here. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. And if you have more questions, or you want like expansion of explaining things, let me know in the comments. And until next time, see you later. Bye! Gotta loosen up a little bit. Here, loosen up.
I don't need to loosen up.
Okay, fine. I just want to be like super serious.